Hi. So, motivation, what exactly is it? Where do we get it from? Where can we get more of it? And the timing of this webinar is perfect this week because I'm getting a lot of struggle bus texts, and it's normal. And you'll see during this presentation that the timing of the progression of this program and the loss of motivation is very typical. What you need to realize is that when you lose motivation, that doesn't mean that you are losing grip on your progress and losing grips on the trajectory of how you're going to do. It is typical behavior to derail. It's typical behavior to quit when you lose that motivation. And I'm going to teach you how you can ride the tide, ride the wave of motivation. For years and years and years, I was guilty of this, and many of you have been guilty of this. I know my ambassadors can speak for this as well, and those of you that have been successful in my program, you are used to having that high, feeling that lull, and then jumping ship. And what you have to understand is that that motivation is normal, that loss is normal. And what you have to do is not jump ship. You have to embrace the fact that that is part of the process and come up with strategies, tactics, and give yourself little breaks along the way to ride that wave and get ready to get back on that high. All right, so I'm going to share this presentation with everyone briefly. And okay. All right, so the motivation tide, riding the waves of success. And I thought about this over the years, and I thought about early on when I was a rookie dieter. You start your first diet, you lose 5-10 pounds, you get that little loss of motivation, and you label that as the beginning of the end. And that is exactly what it becomes, the beginning of the end. And so you derail, you quit, and you're off the plan. And you assume that it wasn't the plan for you. So you start over with a new plan. And that's where that serial dieting comes in, because you are never finding anything that works. But yet, in hindsight, you've never really given anything a full chance. Now, I do know that there are a lot of dysfunctional programs out there that truly aren't sustainable, and so that's a different topic. But you'll see here, for those of you that are doing my program and are starting to lose that motivation, what you can do and how it is quite normal. So what is motivation? Motivation is the drive we have to succeed. It's having that eye on the prize, and it's not just for weight loss and wellness. This encompasses all areas of life. It encompasses education, career, marriage, family, finances. What motivates you? And interestingly, some people can be very highly motivated in one area and can spark motivation constantly in their life in one area, but then are constantly depleted in needing or deficient in motivation in other areas of their life. And it's because we tend to repeat ourselves. History repeats itself, and we live by that preconceived notion. And that's what the basis of this presentation is about. So where does this drive come from? Well, initially, it is driven by goals that we make. It's driven by commitments that we initially have, and we set them ourselves. We come up with a plan, a desire, something that we want to achieve, and we commit ourselves to it, whether it is a degree in school, whether it is a financial goal, whether it is a house we're saving for, whether it's a weight loss goal. We set it up and we drive to achieve it. Sometimes these goals might be unrealistic and unachievable. And in that case, maintaining that motivation will fizzle. And that's where we have to regroup and come up with something that's a little bit more realistic. But if your goal is realistic and you can commit to it, and will commit to it, you have that drive and that newness, that excitement, that spark, as I call it, comes from that beginning, the anticipation of you reaching that goal. And the anticipation is where that drive comes from. When you first sign up for a program, you anticipate what the end result's going to be. You could see it, you could taste it, you could flavor it. You're committed to it. When we start to fade from seeing that end result, we start to lose that motivation. And that's what we want to avoid. So there are phases in motivation. I've never defined them like this before, but they definitely exist. And so since I've mastered working with people in stages, in months rather, which is stages, I've put this little chart together. And so you can plug yourselves in to this chart, and you can assume that you've been here. If it's not in my program right now, if you're month 1, month 2, and you haven't reached month 7, you may have been in month 7 at some point in a different program. So month 1 and 2 is the information transformation stage. This is the stage where you are so highly motivated. There is nothing that's getting in your way during this stage. It is high tide. You are on a mission. Your goals are set. You are going to achieve them. Oftentimes during this stage, you are clear-headed. You can see your results. They're right there. You could taste them. But also during this stage, if you've set your goals to an unrealistic level, you haven't really hit that bottom point yet of not being able to maintain. So at this point, when you're highly motivated, if you told yourself you're never gonna drink beer again or eat pizza again, day 1, day 2, week 1, week 2, you're able to do it because it's still sustainable. But it quickly becomes unsustainable. And so that's where that loss of motivation comes from. So months 1 and 2, it's really important to know that whatever you're doing, it should be sustainable in order for you to stay highly motivated. Again, if you pick a program and you can't maintain it, keto, intermittent fasting, all of these gimmicky programs, look at yourself and say, can I do this for the rest of my life? You can't, and that's typically why after certainly 2 months that fades. All right, so what will always happen around month 3, if not sooner, but usually around month 3, things settle in. We start to lose motivation. It becomes normal. Normal activity, normal every day, we start to compare. And no matter how often and no matter how many times I tell people to not compare your results, your journey, your story to someone else's, it inevitably happens. It has been happening since the beginning of time. And I know it's gotten better since I have put it out there, but everybody's story, everybody's journey is exclusive to them for a multitude of reasons. The first one being that every body is different. We are all complex physiological organisms, and we all are going to lose weight differently based on how much we have to lose, our activity levels, and most importantly, our previous dieting patterns. And I find that to be probably the most relevant once you get to be in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, because of all the metabolic damage that may have occurred due to previous diets. So what I'm saying is, if you are comparing yourself, who has been on every gimmicky, restrictive diet out there, to someone else who has never dieted before, and they're losing weight like crazy, um, two different metabolisms. Also, if you're comparing yourself to somebody that is doing a diet that's out there, I just did this on my last podcast. My, cousins, aunts, brothers, uncles, friend who did keto and lost 30 pounds. We don't know the end story. We don't know the backstory. We don't know what they're going to be in 3 months. We don't know where they're going to be in 2 weeks. So we only hear where they're at right now. We want to know if we're going to compare, we want to know the big picture. Where are they going to be in a year, in 2 years, and what is their metabolism going to be like? So if you're going to compare, it should be a parallel comparison, which is virtually impossible. What happens during the comparison stage, we get derailed because we see what other people are doing, and we become very negative, and we become very down on ourselves, because instead of focusing on what we are doing great and all of the things that we have achieved, we hyper focus on what other people are doing that we're not. So let me give you an example, and this is just standing out in my head. I had somebody join in the spring, and she came to me with a very broken metabolism, extremely frazzled, had gone through a lot of personal loss, professional stress, and nothing was working at all. She had gone to multiple doctors, multiple food channels to check for allergies and food issues that might be causing metabolic stress and inability to lose weight. And she's down 25 pounds, and is literally a changed person. She no longer has weight to lose, and is a role model. She has lost her motivation. She texted me and said she's struggling. She's lost motivation. She doesn't have time to work out. She's stressed because she sees all the new people that are starting now in the summer, and they're all motivated, and she is comparing herself to them and what she was like in the spring when she onboarded. And she is upset because she is not in that information transformation stage. And instead of focusing on what she's accomplished, which, by the way, we would have never guessed that she'd be where she is just a few months later. She's not focusing on everything she has done and all of her achievements. She's focusing on what she isn't anymore. And so that comparison is taking her down. And in a sense, the new people that are starting could very well do the same. They could look at her and say, wow, I would love to be in her shoes. She's changed her life. So, grass is always greener, and we don't know the backstory. So when you are comparing yourself and when you are at that loss of low motivation, Stop, pat yourself on the back, and remember where you came from. And this is a big one. If all else fails, ask yourself where you would have been and what behaviors you would have executed a year ago today, 6 months ago today. And I guarantee you that will blow your mind, because oftentimes a really bad food intake eating day today might very well have been considered an amazing great eating day before you started this program. So if you want to do a comparison, that will make you feel a lot happier. So um, months 3, 4 comparison stage, compare that. All right, so what happens at months 5 and 6? Well, I call it the 3 C's, but I actually only have listed 2 up here because I didn't want to be offensive. So we have the comfortable, content, and happy stage. So we're comfortable, we're content, but we're also very cocky. And you could see here motivation's kind of gone up a little bit. You sort of gotten over the whole lull of comparison, and now you've accepted that this is just how it's going to be. You're content with the program, you understand the rules, but you've also embedded yourself in a very comfortable spot, and you're content. Now, I have said this over and over, and last week's podcast, I titled it this: if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And that is months 5 and 6. We're comfortable. We are no longer challenged like we were in months 1 and 2 when we were transforming. We are no longer changing our meals. We are eating the same meals. And I'm flattered that you love months 1 and 2 so much, but the other ones, pop them open, because I assure you they're just as good. We're content, we're comfortable, and we're not going to transform because we are no longer seeking new information, and therefore there will be no transformation. You are just coasting, and that coasting is comfortable, it's great. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't stay there, and you're more than likely to do this. You're entitled, because it is unrealistic to be at full throttle month 1 intensity at all times. And so you should give yourself that break and be at comfortable content. But when you start getting cocky, that's where we have an issue, and that's where month 7 comes in. And so I want to explain this cocky. Content then leads to cocky, and cocky usually is where you are starting to really flip away from the patterns that you have established. You are no longer following the plan as it's been scripted, although you think you are, because you're so comfortable. Like I said, you are following the same plan from day 1. And so you aren't really looking at the recipes anymore because you know them. And so therefore you're making silly mistakes. And instead of using your food scale to measure those flax seeds, you might be just scooping. And so every little scoop is a variable that goes unmeasured, and the accumulation of all of those unmeasured variables turns into a large differential. And then that accumulates into possibly not logging as much. And so now we're getting away from achieving the data that we used to once have that gave us those results. And so that cockiness, I see it all the time. And I question it all the time with people. I will say, are you logging? Yes. Well, kind of. And I'm here to tell you that when I say, well, kind of, and I've been doing this going on half of my life, my well kind of usually means that I'm off by 500 calories. So your well kind of is going to mean that you're probably off by a lot more than that. So comfortable content turns into plateau derailment. And actually, at 7 months, if you're going to plateau, it's going to be at 7 months. People think you're going to plateau a lot sooner than 7 months, but the plateau doesn't actually occur till 7 months. However, 80% of people that think they plateau aren't at a plateau. They're at a pseudo plateau. And what that means is their weight isn't moving because of those differentials. We're not weighing, we're not measuring, we're not logging, we're not paying attention to our intake. We're not following the plan like we used to, or we're eating the same exact things every single day, which worked at the beginning, but same input, same output. You put the same exact paint colors in the paint machine, you're going to get the same exact paint out every time. You need to switch it up. So that derailment right here is usually where people quit and they jump ship because they think nothing is working. It's time for me to move on. I'm tired of not seeing results. And really, the reason they're not seeing results is because it's behavioral. So instead, this is what you do. You need to go back to that information stage, month one. And I'm not telling you to go back to the actual month one, but I'm telling you to go back to that get highly motivated. And so I want to explain this. Why do we lose motivation? And this is that cocky month 6, month 7. One, we don't see results. We're not following the plan as close. Lack of results. We're not logging. We're not measuring. No results on the scale. We don't have energy to work out now because we've not seen results. So we're not working out. Therefore, we're not seeing results. We're not seeing results. So we're not being diligent with our food. Therefore, we're not seeing results. Do you see how this is circling around? Therefore, there's no change. Therefore, we don't have motivation. So let's switch it up. First off, when this happens, identify it. And be okay with it. Accept it. You are more than allowed to coast. I coast all the time. And when I'm having my coast, I will accept it. And I literally will ride the wave. I'm tired. I don't feel like kicking it into high gear, but I don't jump ship. I wait until I'm ready for that spark. And I usually give myself about a week or so, but I know in hindsight it's coming. So I need a spark result. I go back to the basics of the plan. Doesn't have to be month one. It could be any month at all, but back to the basics. Follow the plan. Back to the good old days. Logging, measuring, no more mindless munching. Spark results. Force yourself, get up, get moving. Energy is going to create more energy. It's not fun, but I will tell you, once you start moving, it's going to make you love moving. So here we have energy sparks energy. You start to see results, which causes you to follow the plan, which causes you to be excited. So you start logging, you start measuring, which causes you to work out more, which causes you to see results, which causes you to follow the plan. And so now you are back to that high point of motivation. And so these phases are going to keep on going. You don't want to give up. If you tell yourself it's the beginning of the end, it's going to be the beginning of the end. You don't want to go to the end. And from my experience as the facilitator of this program, I can tell you that I see it happen all the time. Many of you would have not made it past many stages of this had I not brought you back and said, hey, this is normal. And what you're experiencing is normal. Ride the wave. And so go back, redetermine, why are you doing this? We often forget when we lose motivation. You're losing motivation, remind yourself, what is your goal? Do you have to reevaluate your goal? Maybe your expectations are too unrealistic. And certainly you should absolutely not ever fixate on how much longer you have to go. And just the other day, I was talking to somebody who's lost 40 pounds, again, amazing. And she has, I believe, 20 or 30 more to go. And she's just so fixated on that. And I said to her, if at your onboarding consultation, I would have said to you on June 9th, we would have been having a conversation and you would have been down 40 pounds and you would have been complaining that you had 20 more to go, what would you have said? End of discussion. Remind yourself of how far you have come, and focus on your goals. Focus on only what you want to do and focus on only today. Sometimes we get derailed because we think about how we're going to do this next week. How am I going to maintain this momentum for another month, 2 months, 6 months? Don't. Just worry about today. Don't stress about yesterday. If you had a bad day, just worry about today. Just embrace today. If you had a bad day yesterday, it's over. And don't fixate on tomorrow. If you are absolutely at that point where you are derailed, and you feel like you have jumped ship, and it's kind of like that point of no return because you've lost that motivation, that's where you need to, of course, if you're in the program, reach out to me. But that's where you need to sit down and one, create that support system again, and that's where I come in. But two, reevaluate those goals and start over. Spark that motivation. Come up to those, recommit, come up to those goals of why you want to do this. Because sometimes we forget what drew us to this point. And when it becomes difficult, we don't want to do it anymore. It's, again, marathon runner, I would say this, it's like me at mile 18. Why exactly am I doing this? But you don't want to quit. The finish line is right there and you've worked so hard, and that's where you have to remind yourself, you've made it this far. Stopping only means inevitably that the pain and anguish will go away momentarily, but inevitably you'll be back in line again. So if you need to take a diet vacation, as I call it, during that lull stage, instead of getting cocky, take a diet vacation, take a break from logging, take a break from the intensity of measuring. Sometimes that break is all you need, and then it'll rejuvenate your desire to get back on the plan. But certainly, your loss of motivation might be because you're aiming for perfection, and that's unrealistic. And it also might be because you have the illusion that this journey is going to go without that loss of motivation. And so I'm going to leave you with this. Everybody loses motivation for everything, whether it's your brand new car, whether it's your brand new house, whether it's your brand new shoes. And I know for me, when I get a brand new pair of shoes, I make sure that I never scuff them, and I wear them never outside. And the next thing I know, I'm plowing through the trails with them, and they're as dirty as can be because we lose motivation. So keep that in mind. That doesn't mean that I don't still love my shoes. It doesn't mean I don't want to, ever see them again. It's normal to lose that motivation. So when you lose your motivation just a smidge, that doesn't mean the struggle bus is coming to kidnap you. That just means you just need to step back, reevaluate, commend yourself for your progress, pat yourself on the back for making it this far. Don't aim for perfection. Forgive yourself for anything that you haven't done that in your eyes isn't perfect. And remember, you are probably inspiring someone. So keep your chin up and no self-defeating thoughts, only positive ones. All right. So hope this motivated you. Enjoy the rest of your day.